Xicadian cycle. For my Uncle John. If only time hadn't run out so quickly. Adam Becker, the preeminent Martian scientist, traditionally wore the exact same pair of wire-framed glasses and grey-coloured beanie to virtually every public event he had ever attended. In fact, the only known images where he is not seen wearing this particular attire were quite literally baby photos. Some had even gone so far as to suggest these childhood photos could not possibly be of him, but of his younger brother, Alan. While Adam could presumably have taken his beanie off at any time, the same could certainly not be said of his alarmingly large proboscis, which, when taken at flood, made him all but impossible to miss, even at the most crowded of venues. Like all natives from Mars, he appeared unnaturally tall and lanky when compared to his earthbound counterparts, and although it was quite rare to see both Martians and Earthlings co-located, through the magic of holographic teleconferencing, the side-by-side comparison was as startling as it was disturbing. As legend had it, Adam Becker grew up in the Martian slums before pulling himself up by his own bootstraps to become one of the most celebrated and well-known scientists since the great Albert Einstein himself. It was pejoratively opined by certain earthbound critics. This feat could surely only have been possible in the much weaker gravitational field of Mars. The actual truth of the matter was, of course, somewhat less romantic. He came from a middle upper-class family and had access to all of the more prestigious higher education institutions. His father was a senior product relationship manager for one of the big four asteroid mining conglomerates that completely dominated the intrasolar economy. With 3 of the 4 mining companies all based on Mars, their modest population of just under 1 billion souls did little to change the fact Mars was on the fast track to becoming the next financial and military superpower. Much to Adam's dismay, over the last half-century, a building geopolitical tension between Earthling and Martian intrasolar mining operations had progressively escalated into ever more serious territorial disputes, some of which even threatened to boil over into armed conflict. This was due in no small part to what had become colloquially known as the Finders Keepers Accord, an internationally ratified and legally binding space law that was being increasingly challenged by Earth-based policymakers. Almost inevitably then, trillion-dollar interstellar mining fleets now found themselves regularly accompanied by heavily armed military escorts. And while Earth's military fleet enjoyed superior numbers, it was Mars who held an ever-widening technological advantage, thanks in no small part to the genius of Adam Becker. An iconic photo of the famous physicist standing at a conference table while being mobbed by a gaggle of his adoring peers akin to Jesus and his apostles sat permanently laminated to a wall on the command deck of the Medusa III. Becker's principal claim to fame was being the inventor of a miracle material that could coexist within the hypothesized hidden dimensions of string theory, and in doing so demonstrate a tensile strength that made carbon fibre look like a thin sheet of wet tissue paper in comparison. Becker, a lifelong pacifist, had always claimed that the invention itself had originally been conceived of as nothing more than an experimental proof of his theory, rather than as a product of practical and commercial application. However, just as with the splitting of the atom, it did not take long for the Martians to harness its potential as a weapon of unimaginable destructive power. So, as much as she might have wished it, Amanda Antoinette of the Mars Military Coalition could not simply blame Adam Becker while she watched the world come to an end via a near real-time satellite feed. Her sister ship, the OG Medusa, in an act of unprecedented disproportionate retaliation, had just completed the dimensionally augmented razor wire demolition of the third rock from the Sun. While the Medusa I's captain had always been a distastefully unapologetic spacehawk, never in her wildest dreams had she ever thought him capable of something quite like this, no matter how extreme the circumstances. The whole thing had literally played out like some kind of surreal, three-dimensional video game on her starship's primary projection port. Had she not personally borne witness to the series of escalating events leading up to this terrible moment, she would simply not have been willing to believe her own eyes. As the starship captain continued to watch on in mesmerized horror, she became vaguely aware the sound assaulting her ears was not that of an alarm, but of someone wailing uncontrollably. It might have been her first officer, Jesper Klein, but she simply could not take her eyes away from the frozen image of a newly slagged Earth to confirm her suspicion. The weeping man abruptly fell to silence as a loud, percussive sound caused Amanda to flinch reflexively. Her first officer now lay face down on the deck, blood pooling from the hardened rubber bullet that had penetrated his temple. An electromagnetic medical bot promptly rolled itself out of a small portal in the far wall, sprouting a tripod of legs as it came to a halt next to the motionless body. It quickly and efficiently checked for vital signs, and, apparently not finding any, tried to shock the first officer back into life. The fallen officer spasmed involuntarily as the electrical charge violently surged through his body. A stream of blood began to run from one of his nostrils, and saliva began to dribble out of the side of his mouth. His face, however, seemed incongruently peaceful, almost in mocking defiance to the chaotic scene playing out all around him.
Cancel resuscitation attempt. Authorization ship's captain, the Medusa III, Amanda Antoinette.
The medical bot responded instantly by sending an X-ray burst in the direction of the starship captain. Confirmation apparently achieved, it obediently retracted its legs and then swiftly rolled its way back into the portal, leaving a long, sticky trail of blood behind it. Literally only seconds had elapsed since the end of the world, and already the suicides had begun. Amanda knew all too well it was her sworn duty to take full control of the situation at hand and become the stoically dependable kind of captain her crew so desperately needed. But something like this, well, you just couldn't train or prepare for it. And she simply could not snap herself out of the catatonic state she now found herself hopelessly trapped within.
Captain Antoinette, I apologize profusely for disturbing you, but you have a priority 1 call from Admiral Noah Priest.
Amanda stared vacantly at Petty Officer Leonie Sinclair, whose frightened gaze was switching almost involuntarily between that of her captain and the lifeless corpse of her first officer. The captain genuinely found it very hard to comprehend how Leonie was holding it together so well, and came to the inevitable conclusion it could surely only be due to some sort of ancient primordial coping mechanism. No, very clearly, Leonie had simply reverted to robotically following all the rules and regulations in a last-ditch attempt to preserve her own sanity. Well, everyone had their own way of coping, or not, as the case may be. Amanda Antoinette now dragged herself kicking and screaming into the present moment, and managed to finally secure herself at least some small semblance of composure.
I'm terribly sorry, Leonie, but please tell Admiral Priest that I'm currently indisposed with a world-ending crisis, and he will just have to wait in line like everyone else. He is, of course, more than welcome to keep his place in the queue, but I wouldn't recommend that he hold his breath. Then again, perhaps he should do exactly that.
With a glazed look flooding back into her eyes, Amanda mechanically returned her gaze to the frozen image of what was once a place called Earth. As she continued to stare at the image hypnotically, the projection unexpectedly went blank, before quickly being replaced with a pseudo three-dimensional image of the Admiral's stone-cold face, staring accusingly back at her.
All right then, Captain, let me get straight to the point. Despite what you may think, I am more devastated by this tragedy than someone like you would probably ever be capable of comprehending. But we really do need to talk, you and I, and this simply cannot wait any longer. I wish we had the luxury to allow you more time to grieve, but the future of humanity itself quite literally hangs in the balance.
Amanda stared into the Admiral's icy blue eyes, as if only just now seeing him.
This is a peacekeeper ship, Admiral, in case that little fact had somehow managed to slip your mind. Ships like this have one singular purpose in life, which is to prevent humanity from blowing herself to smithereens. Apparently, though, we have just now officially become the very thing that we have always purported to fear the most. Or am I missing something here, Admiral Priest?
Oh, stop being so melodramatic, will you? It's not at all becoming of a starship captain. You can't pin this catastrophe on me, no matter how badly you might want to do so. I didn't give that order, and you know damn well that I never would. Now, regardless of what you may think of my politics, you saw how it played out with your own 2 eyes. The simple fact of the matter is the OG Medusa went rogue after the Earth Defense Alliance took out the Medusa II, both preemptively and without adequate justification, I might hasten to add. So Earth is every bit as much to blame for this catastrophe as Mars, and on balance, perhaps even more so.
So Earth had it coming. Is that what you were trying to tell me, Noah?
The Admiral's craggy face contorted with impatient frustration.
Stop trying to put words into my mouth, and actually listen to what I have to say for just once in your life, will you?
Amanda snorted derisively, but the Admiral just ignored her and continued to push on relentlessly.
So to state the blazingly obvious, this was never meant to happen. No, I can assure you, Amanda, we had all the appropriate safeguards well in place to ensure that it wouldn't, but somehow, through an exceptionally improbable series of events, it happened anyway. All any of us can hope to do now is try our best to make this right. That includes you too, Amanda, who now just happens to be the sole captain of the single most powerful Martian starship still in active service. And I should very much like to emphasize the word service.
The captain's expression turned to one of pure, unadulterated incredulity.
Make this right? Is that supposed to be some kind of sick joke? Earth is dead, Admiral, DEAD dead, and Mars is about to follow it, in very short order, no matter what I might try to do next. Do I really have to spell it out for you? There's no making this right. I am the ultimate deterrent, turned into the ultimate holocaust. It is idiots just like you, who gambled humanity's future on this zero-sum fallacy that has now left us with nothing but the proverbial ashes in our mouths.
The Admiral's face took on a contemptuously mocking expression.
Well, how tragically poetic of you, Captain Antoinette. I'll bet you have been saving that one up for years, praying for a moment just like this so you could throw it back into my face like some kind of petulant little child. Look, there is still a chance that we can salvage this mess and turn this situation around. Why, by the god of Mars, can't you see that?
Amanda now mirrored the Admiral's expression of contempt with her own.
20 billion dead, just so I can make you look small? Well, that's one hell of an ego you've got there, priest. I'll give you that much at least.
Oh, come on, Amanda. I didn't mean it like that, and you know it. Perhaps I should hang up and call back so we can start this conversation all over again, because very clearly this is nothing but an express ticket to absolutely nowhere.
The starship captain looked at the image of the Admiral's face appraisingly.
Yes, perhaps you really should hang up. That's actually the first good idea I've heard from you in quite some considerable amount of time. Maybe there is some small measure of hope still left after all. By the way, just in case you were wondering about the dead body, as it turns out, Jesper had family on Earth, something you no doubt should already have known, had you ever actually taken the time to read his workup.
Noah Priest briefly flicked his eyes downwards at the dead body and coagulated pool of blood.
Jesus, what a fucking mess.
He muttered to himself under his breath before returning his attention back to the captain.
Yes, well, I always knew it was a mistake to recruit officers with familial connections to Earth. It just makes things far too complicated, not to mention unnecessarily personal. And as it so happens, I actually had read his work up. However, I knew you had to learn the hard way, because rather unfortunately for Jesper, it's the only way someone like you tends to learn anything at all.
Which is exactly why, Admiral Priest thought to himself venomously, I need to get you off the command deck of that warship ASAP, and put someone else on there who has the balls to do the job, both figuratively and literally too, for that matter. The Admiral was suddenly almost completely overwhelmed as an infuriating wave of impotence washed over him. Of the 3 Medusa-class warships, exactly what hell-spawn deity saw fit to keep the one libtard captain alive, while taking out the 2 true Martian patriots? Fate really was a mean, low-down and dirty son of a bitch. Amanda's eyes narrowed, almost as if she was able to hear what her Admiral was thinking.
Either with or without this tragedy, you really are a grade A bastard, Admiral, but you already know that, don't you?
My ex-wife would never dream of letting me forget.
The Admiral retorted humorlessly.
Well, I can tell you what Jesper was not, Noah. He was not a fluffed-up chicken hawk, playing war games with other people's lives while cowardly hiding in the asteroid belt. Speaking of which, I hope you stock up for a very long stay before you crawl back into your hole, because I don't think you will be getting any more supply runs anytime soon, as in, not ever.
The Admiral now appeared to put in a truly Herculean effort in a stoic attempt to regain his composure.
All right, I probably deserved that. The truth is you have every right to be angry, so go ahead and get it out of your system. But the fact still remains we have a job to do, and what happens next is much bigger than either you or I. The simple reality is this scenario was modelled and a contingency was prepared. Come home, Amanda, and be a part of the solution, because it's not going to work without you. If you give up now, then all really is lost. None of this was your fault, but believe me, you don't want to be the one who could have done something, but chose instead to do nothing. Please, Amanda, Mars doesn't have to fall. We need you now more than ever, so for the sake of your one true family, just come home.
Loyalty to Mars. The Admiral thought to himself coldly. It's her single redeeming feature, but, much more importantly, it is also her Achilles' heel. Once she's managed to calm down a little, she'll no doubt come home, just like the obedient little show pony he had come to know and love. The image of Noah Priest began to reach out a reconciliatory hand, but Amanda swept a palm dismissively across the in-air controls, and the pseudo-three-dimensional image quickly faded to black. With the Admiral now gone, she dropped down onto her knees heavily, took in a deep, slow breath, and then screamed until she could scream no more. After what might have been minutes or hours, Amanda felt someone touch her shoulder gently.
The Admiral is signaling a request to dock, Captain. What do you want me to do, ma'am?
Captain Antoinette took a deep, steadying breath before turning a firm gaze onto her fiercely loyal petty officer.
Admiral Noah Priest apparently has a contingency, but as it turns out, he's not the only one. I need you to shut down all location services and then point us towards the Titan outpost at maximum safe velocity. Do you think you can do that for me, First Officer Leonie Sinclair?
The now ex-petty officer looked momentarily stunned, but quickly regained her composure. She took a mournful glance downwards at the body of Jesper Klein, before then patting her captain on the shoulder reassuringly.
It would be my honor, ma'am. You will always be able to rely on me.
The tension in Amanda's body and face appeared to dissipate visibly. Using the in-air controls, she brought up a holographic representation of the ship's command structure and shifted Leonie's position to that of First Officer.
All right, Leonie. I never doubted you for a second. Now please let the rest of the crew know. Tell them to vacate the gravity drum and get gelled up for a high-G acceleration maneuver. Be sure to make it crystal clear that anyone who has not fully complied with this order within the next 20 minutes will be turned to human paste, because I will not be waiting for any laggards.
She paused for a brief moment before reluctantly adding,
And get a team to put Jesper's body on ice. I will of course arrange for a fitting farewell, if by some miracle we are afforded the luxury to properly grieve ever again.
The captain of the Medusa 3 took another very long look at the broiling, misshapen slag of molten rock that had returned to the primary projection port. "Lean on me when you're not strong," Amanda Antoinette silently whispered to herself, before reaching out for Leonie's hand to get herself back up onto her feet.